Welcome to part three of the empathy guessing game. I have invited my friend Monique again today. In part one, here is the link up there. We talked about what the game is. We gave you a role play, and we also answered some Q&A. In part two, here is the link. Monique and I reviewed the Q&A as well as a number of vignettes about empathy guessing that we had peppered through part one. Today, in part three, we want to revisit the empathy guessing game. We want to look at expected benefits of the game, and we will expand on the Q&A from before. So Monique, same principles as before?
Yes. Number one is the grass is not greener elsewhere, it's greener where you water it. Number two, secure attachment style is practice. And number three, have fun. Be playful while you're doing it.
Wonderful. As we've seen in part one, the empathy guessing game is very simple. You start with, are you feeling? And you state a feeling. And then you ask because you value or you need, and you state a value or a need that you sense in the person that you're talking with. We very strongly recommend that you use the feelings and needs cards as a guide to your empathy exploration. So, Monique, how important is it to follow the form?
Yes, I'm glad that that came up because it's really important to follow the forms so you can really get just sort of a memory of how to do it. See what you're looking for, the emotions, the needs, the values. Keep practicing it well after it's become automatic, and then you can freeform if you want.
You know, I like it because one of the things I've learned from this, mini series that you and I are doing, that although I have practiced for years empathy guessing, going back to the form was unbelievably helpful.
I found that to be true for me as well. So, Valdo, what are the expected benefits of the empathy guessing game?
Well, Monique, there are many. And in a nutshell, they are about increasing empathy, which is basically a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. The game helps us better understand what drives others. It helps us better communicate to others that we understand them. And as a result, we increase the satisfaction of our relationships.
It also will boost your confidence in navigating difficult or complex conversations with others. It'll help expand your trust with between you and your partner that each other's there to be understood and to understand, which will of course help your relationship have a better chance at being wonderful and long lasting.
How about the ones who do not have a partner yet?
Oh yeah, the great thing about empathy guessing is it'll help you build a great partnership from the ground up when you find that perfect match.
Okay, Monique, Q&A time. So the first question I find really interesting because I notice that it is a very important question. Is there a difference between are you feeling dot 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 with a question mark or with you are feeling dot dot dot? Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I agree that this is a very important question. When I say you are feeling, your brain will check against it and push back, looking for me to be wrong. If I ask you, are you feeling, your brain checks in and it opens up and we get to move forward.
Monique, I loved your answer because I noticed two things in me. One is it makes no difference in terms of reactivity, but it helped me go deeper.
Yes to both. Is it important to know what my feelings and needs are?
Yes and no. In order to ask an empathy guessing, you technically don't need to know what your feelings are. However, big picture, the intent is to develop emotional intelligence. And developing emotional intelligence is something that happens step by step by step. And sometimes it is an external step, sometimes it's an internal step about how I'm feeling and learning more about my own feelings and my own needs. And the next step, I'm going to learn more about my partner's own needs and feelings.
And I imagine it's also valuable for me to be aware of my feelings and needs in the conversation because I can see how I'm doing in relationship to the conversation and my partner.
Monique, I like this next question. how do I know if I made a good guess?
Yes, you know you've made a good guess if your partner is getting less frustrated and more insightful. And you know you've made enough guesses if you ask, is there more? And you notice them opening up and relaxing into being understood.
So, what I understand is that when you make a good empathy guess, basically your partner relaxes and feels somehow soothed by that conversation.
Yes, and so the idea is to keep guessing, take as many as it takes to watch your partner relax and feel understood. So, Valdo, can I make the same guess several times with the same feeling and different needs?
Absolutely. And basically, it's a guess. So it's an exploration. And the idea is we want to find a match between the right feeling and the right need, knowing that sometimes it's several needs and several feelings that are activated. So, absolutely. Next question. I am a beginner. I have the sense that I'm failing more than I'm succeeding.
Well, first, we want to support that you're trying, and that's the important part. And emotional intelligence is a slow process. It's also hard if you're, not quite rested or things aren't going well. So just keep trying.
Monique, your answer is the perfect segue to the next question. It feels a lot harder when it is part of an emotionally charged conversation with my partner.
That will be the case for all of us. And what we're going to ask you to do is, as much as you can, be well rested and take good care of yourself before you go into an emotionally charged situation. Take deep breaths, hang in there.
Monique, very interestingly, next question is when the situation is charged with my partner, shall I keep going on with the empathic guessing game?
As long as you're not frustrating each other, it's great to hang in there, ask the questions, pause, show the caring. The empathy guessing game is the best tool when it's charged.
Monique, I totally support your hanging in there. And because the learning curve for the empathy guessing game is so long and somehow tricky because you make many mistakes on the way, I believe it is really important to take classes, or even better, if you're in a couple and you have a couples therapist or a couples coach, is work with that with your coach so your coach can guide you in the process.
Absolutely. That neutral person to help guide both of you in the empathy guessing game is incredibly valuable. My partner gets frustrated with the rigidity of the structure. What should I do about that?
First, there are ways to soften the rigidity. For example, using values in terms of needs. For example, I know, Monique, you work quite a bit in the corporate world. It's not easy in a meeting to talk about needs, but you can easily talk about values. The structure does have some rigidity, and actually, some of that rigidity is good. One ways that you can somehow soften the practice is to make it a practice. So, for example, saying, I work with couples, hey, darling, I would love to practice empathy guessing on this gnarly conversation we're having. Would you mind that we do that for the next 30 minutes? I'm going to get my feelings and needs card so I can be better listening to you and better understanding what it is that you are saying.
Yeah, so you're reminding your partner that you're playing a game and the game is helpful. Love that answer.
Yeah, definitely. And so the third piece, it is possible also that you are making some mistakes on the way, that you are not aware of it because you are learning to practice the game. And so this is where a class and being coached makes a big difference. Next question. My partner feels interrogated when I use the needs and feeling cards. Shall I keep using them?
I do think you should keep using them, but you might want to try slowing down and making sure that your caring and curiosity is coming through. It might be that the interrogation comes from the rapid fire reporter style you're trying. So try that. It's also possible that your partner has trauma. And so
Mm.
it could be that they're activated by all these questions and feeling interrogated. So you might just want to remind them, I'm using these cards to better understand you. This isn't about you getting it right or feeling attacked. What happens if my guess is wrong?
Really good question. So, in essence, there is no wrong guess. I want to qualify that a little bit is if your partner is willing to hang in there with you in the empathy guessing gaming, then a wrong guess is basically indication that either you're off the territory or that you stumble onto some reactivity of your partner that is also present that is would be good to explore. Now there is the possibility that your partner blows up and basically wants out of the game. So this is a different story. And this is maybe good as well because it may be that you uncovered or that enables you to talk about the reactivity that happened as a result of your wrong guess.
What happens if my partner uses judgments and faux feelings in the story they're telling me?
I love that question because it is really important. So, first, I made a video a few weeks ago on what empathy is not. And basically, judgments are not empathy. And I also made a video on faux feelings, which I believe are really important to understand. And so, faux feelings are basically disguised judgments. Basically, they look like feelings, like I feel betrayed, but they imply the judgment that you are betraying me. And so in this case, for the sake of our Q&A, for me, judgments and for feelings are basically interesting information. I am learning from my partner that my partner is in judgment mode. Monique, this next question I feel very guilty of. So, and I'm going to ask it from my Valdo point of view. So, Monique, on a regular basis, I feel that I have the perfect empathy guess, and somehow do I interrupt my partner?
Oh, interrupting is such a dangerous thing. It's rarely done well. If you're like Valdo and I, and you get excited and you want to make your empathy guess, you might even do this. Try to hold your guess. Let your partner have their turn.
Hmm. And so I have a different view because I believe it's important to learn to interrupt each other well because we do it all the time anyway.
Yeah, interrupting is also a place that I get excited and I want to show my empathy and want to share my guess. Interrupting is really quite a complicated tool. So if your partner's going into a long story and they're not focusing on their feelings and needs, perhaps a adept interruption would be a great tool to use. More often, until you learn how to interrupt skillfully, it's great to give your partner a chance to answer the question, go inward, see their feelings and needs, and share them. And perhaps, Waldo, it would be good for you to make a video on how to interrupt skillfully.
I like it.
What if I get triggered in the process?
That is a really good question because that happens quite a bit. And so I recently made a video on self empathy, which I believe is really important. And basically, self empathy is soothing oneself, soothing our own reactivity. So we can be available to our partner. So whether it is self empathy or saying, hey, darling, let's take a break for 20 minutes. I need to cool down. I believe it is really important to only do empathy guessing when one is able to fully, or at least good enough partially, listen to their partner.
I think it's important to remind everybody, too, that if this is a problem that's been years in the making, it can be many conversations in the understanding.
Monique, that was a wonderful Q&A. Would you have any summary as, what advice you give to people that are beginners that are wanting to learn the empathy guessing game?
Absolutely. Probably it's just two things. Be important that you're not focused on being right. This is about
Mhm.
guessing, not getting it right. And number two is celebrate the effort. You're both trying to better understand each other. And that's where celebrating and appreciating.
Wonderful. And in terms of appreciation, Monique, I so appreciate doing these videos with you. If this video inspired you to develop your emotional intelligence, please hit the like button below and subscribe so you can be notified when I publish new juicy content. I look forward to seeing you very soon.